All right. Hello, everyone. It's Jeremy Felt from Harvest Realty. Today, we are looking at the contract to buy and sell residential. So, this is in Colorado. If you're buying a home that has a residential property on it, this is the contract that we're going to use. There's other that are similar if you're purchasing land, commercial property, other things like that will have a lot of the similar language in here. But today, we're just going to focus on the residential form. At the very top of all of these forms for real estate contracts, real estate forms here in Colorado, it has a big disclaimer, and a lot of times it probably doesn't even get read, but it's really, really important to understand that buying or selling a home is one of the biggest things that you will ever do, and there's a lot of tax, legal, other things that go into it. So making sure that you understand all of that is hugely important. If you're scratching your head or unsure, it's always a good idea. Bring in an attorney. I know it's extra time, probably extra money, not ideal, but it's better than the alternative of risking, people coming after you down the road because something was missed or something like that. Also, tax consequences. We're selling a home. How long have we been in there? What are we selling it for? What did we originally purchase it for? Those are all going to be things that you want to run by your tax professional to make sure that, are we going to pay taxes? How much taxes are we going to pay? And just being aware of that. So very, very important. We're going to focus on today sections 3 and 4 because that's really the heart of any contract. So section 3 deals with the dates and deadlines. What is happening and when is it happening? And also we want to make sure that we're not just putting in dates out of order. We're putting in dates for items that we're not even going to use. We don't want to put in appraisal deadline if they're not getting an appraisal. So we don't want to get, deadline, the ability to terminate because of owners association documents if it's not in an HOA. So there's just things that we want to be aware of that when we go through. So we'll quickly go through item by item. The nice thing about the contract is you have the item numbers over there to the left, and then you have the reference numbers. So that'll tell you what section these clauses and these paragraphs are in, so you can go and read them more in depth. Again, I know it takes a lot of time and it feels exhaustive at times, but what we don't want to do is just send over a contract or an offer, look it over in 10 seconds. Oh yeah, there's a price, there's a closing date, sign it, and we're good. There's a lot more to it than that. So I know we live in a society that wants everything now and we want to be done. Do you accept the terms? You scroll to the bottom and click accept, and really you don't even read it. We don't want to do that with this form. So the very first item is the time of day deadline. This is recently added. I don't necessarily love it, but I understand why people may have it in there. If you want the day to end at 10 p.m. instead of 11:59 p.m. or at 8 p.m. or 5 p.m., you can put that time of day in there. The issue that could possibly arise, let's say you put it in 5 p.m. and a deadline's coming, it's the day of, someone can't get off work, can't get in front of their computer, they open it up at 5:30, get it signed. Well, technically, you're out of contract because the day ended at 5 p.m. if you put that in there. So I don't love it. I don't love working, obviously, at 10 or 11 p.m. at night. No one really does. But just to make sure that you're covered and safe, give yourself those extra few hours if you want. The alternative earnest money deadline, is there going to be earnest money? How much is it and who's holding it? Okay? And then how long does the buyer have to deliver that to whoever's holding the earnest money? We want to spell that out there. Either put in a day or put MEC, which means mutual execution of contract, plus 3 business days, 5 business days, whatever the case may be. The title work, once we go under contract, all parties sign, it's fully executed. We're going to send it over to whatever title company is working with us for title insurance. They're going to do their research of the property, going back to previous owners. Are there easements on the property? Are there any liens on the property? Are there any unrecorded easements or liens? Those are things that we're going to want to know as a buyer. We don't want to go into a property and realize, oh, the neighbor uses this road for access to their property, or oh, there's a lien against the property. Well, we don't want to pay for that. Obviously, we want to make sure that that's taken care of at closing. So those are the title work. If there's any issues, it follows the same pattern of pretty much everything in this contract. You get a chance to review everything, appraisal, inspection, title work, whatever it is. And then you have the ability to object to certain items. And then if there's an objection, there needs to be a resolution in order to keep the contract moving forward. So I'd always space those out by a few days. You don't want the objection and resolution deadline on the same day, because now, again, you're up against the clock trying to get the objection over to the other side and then come up with a resolution at the same time. It can be difficult to do. The Owners Association, those documents, we will have, if we're in an HOA or a common interest community, we're going to have HOA documents that we need to deliver. Hopefully the HOA has good accounting and record keeping, and that'll be easy to obtain. Not always the case, but that's our hope. So we're going to get over to the buyer minutes, bylaws, the covenants, the conditions, restrictions, budget items, insurance items, anything that we have in order for them to make an informed decision. Again, you may not want to buy a property realizing, oh, after I buy the property, there's a $10,000 assessment, special assessment that's going to take place to build a new clubhouse for the golf course or whatever the case may be. So we're going to get that if we live in an HOA. Loan and credit approval. So if it's any sort of owner financing, owner carry or seller financing, then they may want to see, well, they're probably going to want to see the history of the buyer's credit worthiness, just like a bank or a lender would want to see, to make sure that they're going to be able to pay it back. Otherwise, if it's just a traditional, conventional FHA type loan, we're going to put in there the application deadline. Again, hopefully that process has started, but it's not technically completed until you're under contract. So we don't put completed in there, even though if we've been talking with the lender and we're pre-approved, we still want to give ourselves 1 or 2 days to get that to the lender. Loan terms. So are the loans, the terms of the loan acceptable? Maybe the rate jumps up while we're under contract and we say, oh, we don't want to pay that percentage. We need to be able to get out of this contract. So you'll put a deadline in there. Again, sellers, you probably don't want to give them right up until closing to do that, because then they have a way out. And all of these termination deadlines, they use the language buyer's sole subjective discretion, which means that they can get out and they don't even need to give a reason. Oh, the loan terms weren't good, so I'm out. Well, what were the terms you didn't like? They don't have to disclose that. Or inspection items. We're getting out for inspection. They don't have to list, well, it was these 10 things that scared us away. So they can really just send it over and terminate, which is obviously on the seller side a little frustrating, but on the buyer side, it protects them from purchasing things, homes that may have issues down the road. So we want to put in those, the loan availability deadline. Can they even get the loan? Again, we probably don't want to put that way out a few days before closing. We want to make that, well, if they're not going to be able to get the loan, buyer wants to know that pretty early on, but also the seller wants to know. They don't want to be under contract for 30 or 40 days and then realizing, oh, the 5 days in, we realized they weren't going to get the loan, but we're still under contract. Then we have the appraisal process. So the appraisal, if getting a loan, likely will need an appraisal. The appraiser goes out, it's their professional opinion of value. They give it. If there's any issues with that, like a low appraisal below the purchase price, then buyers and sellers and everyone got to figure out, how are we going to be able to keep this moving forward? Is the seller going to come down in price? Is the buyer going to bring extra cash at closing to make up that difference? Or is it going to be somewhere in between? So again, we review, we object, and then hopefully come up with a resolution. Or if there is no resolution, then the contract terminates. An ILC, that stands for an improvement location certificate. So, how far is the home or the shed or whatever off of the property lines? Okay, sometimes lender or a title company may require that. Same with a survey. Even if we don't think we're going to need those things, we probably want to put in a deadline and then spell out who's ordering it, who's paying for it, who's getting the report, have all those things outlined in the contract. And then inspection and due diligence. What documents do they have on hand that they can give us? Do they have radon report? Do they have a mill tailings report? Do they have previous surveys or ILCs that they can provide to the buyer? And then inspection, that's one of the biggest hurdles that we want to get through early on in the contract, we want to get the home inspected by someone professional. There is no licensed inspector in Colorado, which is sometimes an issue. But we want to get someone in there and have them look at the property, check all the appliances, get up in the attic, down in the crawl space, and really look at the overall health of the home. And then they'll give a report, again, review, object, or terminate. And then if there is an objection, there needs to be a resolution or waive the original objection. So that's a process that you go through, kind of an internal negotiation within the contract. And then obviously, property insurance, you want to get this address to your insurance provider even before you purchase it, so they can look up, because a lot of times you run into, oh, we didn't realize this is in a flood zone. Maybe we can't even get the insurance we expected, or the insurance is going to be very expensive, a lot more than what we thought, or you need extra fire insurance or something like that. So you want to be aware of that, get that to your insurance provider as quickly as possible. Does the buyer need to sell a home in order to purchase this home? That would go in conditional sale deadline. Okay. Lead-based paint is the home built before 1978 or given a building permit before 1978. Then we want to get that disclosure in place saying, yes, the seller is aware of lead-based paint, or no, they are not. And even with that, if they're not aware, we can still do our own research on it and get it tested to make sure that there is no lead-based paint. Again, a lot of these things aren't just, well, what is the condition of the home? Is it even safe to live in? We want to know those things. And then the closing date, possession time, those all need to be outlined. I mean, if the seller thinks, yeah, we're going to close, and then I have the weekend to move out, and the buyer's thinking they're moving everything in right after closing, that's going to be an issue. So we need to spell absolutely everything out. Don't assume anything within the contract. Anything that's kind of general or ambiguous, that's where we get into a lot of issues. And then section 4, the really important one, the exciting one, probably the first thing people ask is, do we have an offer coming in, or we're writing an offer? What's the amount? What's the purchase price? So close date, loan type, all of those things are really important. But the first thing people want to ask is, well, what is the offer? How much are they offering? So we have purchase price, earnest money. Again, what is it? Where is it going? And who's going to keep it? That will obviously go towards the buyer's credit at closing. So if they need $20,000 cash at closing, but they already put in $5,000 earnest money, then they need to bring an additional $15,000 to match that $20,000 cash at closing. So earnest money, if there's a loan being serviced, then what is the new loan amount? If there's a loan being assumed, what's the assumption balance? If there's any sort of private financing or seller financing, what is that? And then how much cash at closing does the buyer need to bring? And then making sure that those totals match up. Again, if there's a big amount that they're bringing cash at close, we want to make sure they have that. Or if they don't, verify where are they getting it. Are they pulling from a 401k? Do they need to sell a home in order to bring that money? How is that money going to be brought? So a lot of different things in there. Again, dates and deadlines are very important. Purchase price and terms, how are they going to be able to buy this home? Incredibly important. And that's really kind of where you want to start when reviewing a contract. Hope this was helpful, you guys. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.